Good evening, dear listeners. This is Akashvani Kohima, and I warmly welcome each of you to another special edition of our literary program, where stories come alive and imagination takes the lead. Listeners, I hope you're excited for today's show because we have an amazing, wonderful guest joining us today, who is none other than Mrs. Kevichusa, the author of Nino's Secret Friend. Mrs. Kevichusa is a mother, a wife, children's minister, a writer, illustrator, public speaker, and a devoted curator of children's literature. Also, what's really inspiring about her is that along with her husband, Mr. Visasir, she pastors Kingdom Culture Church in Dimapur, where they continue to inspire young hearts and families through faith and creativity. Ma'am, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show today. So before we begin, can you kindly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hello, my name is Kevichusa. It is my absolute honor to be here. I am a mother to a 12-year-old called Zara and a son called Judah who went to be with the Lord 5 years ago. My husband and I, we pastor Kingdom Culture Church in Dimapur. And apart from pastoring the church, I am involved and invested in all things that have to do with kids.
Thank you for the warm introduction, ma'am. Let's dive into our very first question. When did your journey as a writer first begin, and what drew you towards writing in the very first place?
I think I've always been interested in writing. In writing, I have found an outlet just to process the different seasons of my life. And writing a children's book made the most sense to me because I think of all the books that I read, I think I enjoy children's books the most. And so it started out with reading for my kids. And the more I read, the more I was drawn to children's literature. And that's what brought me to writing my own books.
Mm-hmm. That's really so inspiring. And the fact that you read to your kids, I really feel that a lot of children miss out on that. But the fact that you do it despite your busy schedule is really so inspiring. And that brings me to your book, Nino's Secret Friend. What was the inspiration or dream that first sparked the idea for Nino's Secret Friend, and how did that initial seed grow into the full narrative?
Nino's Secret Friend is actually my second book. Mm-hmm. And so to tell you about Nino's Secret Friend, I have to tell you about Nino's Secret Garden.
Yes, please do.
Nino's Secret Garden actually began through an encounter that I had with the Holy Spirit more than 15 years ago. It was during a time of prayer and I had this vision of this lion in my living room. And when I went to hug the lion, he turned into a lamb. This encounter so profoundly moved me because I know the lion was represented Jesus, and so did the lamb, because Jesus is the lion and the lamb. And so I carried that vision with me for a very long time. I illustrated Nino's Secret Garden, which is the story of a little girl who accidentally discovers a red door into a secret garden, and there she makes friends with a lion called Losha. Losha is the Angami word for lion, and he's obviously symbolizes Jesus and how he affirms her and tells her that, she's special. And Nino is very sad because after her time with Losha is over, she has to return. But at the end of Nino's Secret Garden, it ends off with this thought that anytime you want, you can reach this special place to connect with her special friend, Losha. And so Nino's Secret Friend takes off from the ending from where we left Nino off at the end of Nino's Secret Garden. And she returns to the garden and she finds that her garden is not as she left it because she has experienced great sadness, and she meets this friend, and this friend helps her through an act of sacrificial love, and her garden is healed and her heart is healed. And basically, in a nutshell, that's what Nino's Secret Friend is about.
Your whole encounter, it was not sort of a random inspiration or anything, but it was such a beautiful encounter, and the way you represented Christ as the lion and the lamb is so beautiful. I'm sure a lot of listeners are excited to read the book now.
Can I just add something to that?
Please.
In this book, Nino's sadness comes into her garden, and therefore her tree, which is the tree of life, which we also find in the Bible, is the tree of life is basically desire fulfilled. And because of her sadness, she has forgotten to pray for things, to have desires, good desires. And so it's just this whole sadness that he helps to heal through friendship. And so Nino's Secret Friend is also a tale about friendship and the role that friendship plays in healing sadness and loneliness in the human heart.
That's so beautiful. And if I'm not wrong, Nino is referred to a young girl in Angami, right?
Yes. What I like is somebody said Nino is little one who makes me happy.
So moving on,
Yeah.
we want to take a closer look into your creative process. So what's your writing routine really like? Are there any poets or writers that have influenced your writing style or voice?
So I'm a very disorganized person. So I have no routine. I have no set formula. I think I mostly run on inspiration, like you rightly said. So every once in a while I see something or I read something and I try to remember to make note of it. But most times I just force myself to sit down, and once I pick up my paintbrush and I start painting, then the story accompanies the art. So the story doesn't come first. It's always the art. I think in pictures, and I think there are many people out there like me who think in pictures. And so even for Nino's secret friend, the first picture I had was this picture of Nino standing under a cloud, her own personal cloud, and there's rain just only over her. And that was the first picture I wanted to paint. And the book sort of wrote itself around that image of her sadness.
Wow, I have no words. A lot of people take inspirations from nature, from music, and so many other things, but I feel like you're the very first, the unique person out there who paints first and then comes the story.
When you look at all best-selling books, you look at writers like C.S. Lewis, the Chronicles of Narnia, you look at J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, all these great books, even Harry Potter for that matter, all of these stories are inspired by the greatest story of all, the Bible. There is hope, there is redemption, there is friendship. And so if there are books that have the power to move us, it is because they are all inspired by the greatest story of all, written by God himself, right? So let me talk a little bit about Harry Potter, because many people are afraid, many Christians are afraid of reading Harry Potter because there's dark magic and there is, wizards. But when my daughter at 9 years old finished reading the story of Harry Potter, her father asked her, he said, Zara, what does Harry's story remind you of? And without missing a beat, she looked at him and she said, it's the story of Jesus, because it's the story of Harry sacrificing himself to save his friends. And because of the resurrection stone, he's resurrected. A 9-year-old brain was able to connect the story of Harry to the story of Jesus. And so I think we should not be so afraid of letting children read non-Christian books, because if we do that, they miss out on so much of the treasures that God has hidden in secular things. Maybe it may be scary for parents, but I do believe that if we set their foundation right, all roads would lead back.
Thank you so much for clearing that up.
I'm so glad, because I think that we need to give permission to people, because there's a part of us, if we are drawn to something, it's because God's fingerprint is on it. You see, there's love in the world because God is love. All the beautiful masterpieces in the world, like Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, all those were commissioned by the church, and yet we have somehow lost it along the way.
True.
And it's time for the church to claim back. Even in Nino's secret friend, like that act of sacrificial love changes her friend, who is stuck in a state of half and half. So little spoiler alert.
Okay.
She meets this tiger man. In Angami, we call him a tekumevi, a half tiger, half man. And so she's staring at him because he looks so strange. His hands and his limbs and his body are a man, but his face is a tiger, and he has a tiger's tail. And he's just stuck in between. And Losha says, you can either be fully man or fully tiger. And when he sacrifices himself to help Nino, he actually becomes fully tiger. So he's set free. That transformation becomes complete. And that's what love does. It transforms us. And so life is this journey of transformation for all of us.
Now, coming to the heart of the book, can you tell us what is the core message or the central theme of Nino's secret friend, and who is it really intended for?
So Nino's secret friend, like I mentioned, I started with this image of her standing under her own personal cloud with her own personal rainfall. And I wanted to really touch on the theme of sadness. And I want to give children permission to be sad and to say it's okay to be sad. When you think about our kids, immediately as soon as a child starts crying, we rush to comfort them and say, don't cry. There is new research to show that when you cry, when you release tears, especially after stress or grief, those tears have something called cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. So when you cry, you are actually releasing stress from your body. And so it's actually very healing for somebody to cry. And so I wanted to even convey through this book to children and adults that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. We all feel sad sometimes. But it goes from that place of sadness to a friendship that develops between Nino and Mr. T, is what I call him, the Tiger Man, where they help each other. And as they help each other, her sadness is transformed into this sense of belonging that she feels with this new friend that she has made. And so that's the two core themes: is it's okay to be sad and the importance of friendship.
This is such a beautiful message, and I think a lot of listeners have learned something new, that it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
And crying does not mean you're weak. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. And for asking that question. And actually there is this part again in the book where she's crying, and Losha, who is the Christ figure, he collects her tears in a glass bottle. And so that is also in the Bible where it says God collects your tears. Every time you cry from a place of sadness or loneliness or grief, those tears are not just getting wasted. Father God sees those tears. And it also says that those tears are for healing. And so I just want to say that your sadness is valid.
Okay, let's talk about your creative process again. What was the most challenging part of putting this book together? And have you ever experienced writer's block? And if you did, how do you deal with it?
Okay, if I'm to be really honest, I picked up my paintbrush after almost 2 years when I sat down to paint this book. And so the first picture that I made was so bad. It was so bad because I got rusty, and I think it took me like maybe even 10 drafts to get it. And in between, I even called up somebody that I know as an artist, and I asked him to meet me at a cafe, and we both brought, our paper and our paint, and we hung out for about 2-3 hours, and he was just giving me impromptu painting lessons at a cafe in Dimapur. And so that sort of was challenging. My creative process, I think, would also be just not being so hard on myself. Because it's a children's book, I like, if you read it, there are more pictures than there are words. I think all the words of the entire book fit in one A4 size. I want to keep the words minimal because I want children to engage with the pictures. I think even with adults, we still do that, and how much more children. And so I just wanted, whatever little words I wrote, I wanted to just add to the picture to explain so much.
Right.
I think we have to just honor that kids are able to understand much more than we give them credit for, and allow them also to interpret as they look at pictures. Instead of like really dialing it down and over explaining it, like give them freedom to also add to the book. So when we over explain, it sort of puts everything in a box.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever got stuck, to be honest, because this was a God project. So I think not everything comes to you at one go. I think no one will say everything comes at one go, but as I made one frame and the next frame came, the words came. So the best thing is to just live with open hands and to be open to change in schedules, timing. I depended entirely on another person to get this book out. The graphic designer for this book he's probably the most gifted creative director that I've worked with. His name is Benjamin Sugatan. Shout out to you, Benji. I know you're not listening, but I'm still going to say it. We have worked together on every project that I have worked on for the last 10-12 years. He's absolutely brilliant, and he just knows what to do. I just give him whatever I give him, and he just takes it and makes it 10 times better. And so I'm really grateful.
In today's age, when everyone is just bombarded with social medias and phones and reels, YouTube, I think even as adults, we struggle to sit down and just open a book and read. So what do you have to say to the adults, both children and everyone out there?
I think reading has a profound impact on our brain activity. But I also think that readers are more compassionate. And so I think that reading is such an underrated activity. And I think that we have to recover it if we want to grow in any capacity, even for those people who are aspiring writers, for inspiration. And so if you want to write a great story, I think you have to read many, many books. If parents can buy books for children, I think that we can get them started much younger. I introduced books to both my kids when they were about 5 months, and they were able to sort of follow. And so I think it is really important for parents of young children to resist giving their children smartphones and instead, give them board books. And there are so many wonderful authors out there. On my Instagram handle, I actually do a list of recommendations of different books for children of different ages. And so if you don't have ideas, you can head out there for inspiration.
So before we wrap up, can you please leave a message to our listeners who are tuned in right now?
I think all of us are storytellers, and we tell stories through different mediums. Some of us do it through art, some of us do it through writing, some of us do it through music, some of us do it through poetry. All of us are storytellers, and I think it's important to tell our stories. Many times we hold back thinking somebody else has already done it, but you have your unique story that God is writing in and through you, and I think it's important to share it with the world. Everybody's story matters.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that heartfelt message. And with that, we come to the end of what's been an inspiring and heartfelt conversation with Ma'am Kevichusa. Ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your beautiful story behind Nino's secret friend. It has been an honor to have you with us today, and we wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. The honor is mine.
To all our listeners, thank you for joining us on Literary Program. Until next time, keep reading, keep dreaming. This is your host, Vedulu Medeo, signing off. This program was brought to you from the studio of Akashvani Kohima.
Please like and subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for the latest contents. Also, follow us on all our social media handles.